It's so
Hello,
funny. Money in the bank to keep
How's
us
everyone doing
warm.
tonight? Thank you for tuning in to another edition of Real Talk on 92.5 WLSD, The Vault. And tonight we're going to be diving into a fairly recent movie. It is called Late Night with the Devil. But before we get into that, please go to all of our social media pages. That's the Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, TikTok, and Instagram, The Other People's Show. And it's going to be a fun show tonight. Now, before we get started, I do want to give a shout out to Wes and Lana. Earlier, they treated me to a nice, juicy cheeseburger and some tater tots, which were fixed and prepared perfectly. And it hit the spot. I'd only had a few pepperonis. I've been doing this new thing like eating less. We'll get to that a little bit in the Other People's Show. But thank you all for that as well. Now, tonight's show is about a film that came out probably 2 months back. And now it is streaming on Amazon Prime, Late Night with the Devil. And this is about a live television broadcast in 1977 that goes horribly wrong, unleashing evil into the nation's living room. So this was a movie that was directed by Colin and Cameron Cairns. Now, I had done a little bit of research on this film and on the directors, and they've had a few small credits to their names, but nothing that the average moviegoer would probably know. Scare Campaign from 2012 being the most notable thing that they have actually listened to. So, I want to do things a little bit differently today than we usually do. I want to play a little bit of the movie trailer to Late Night with the Devil so you all can kind of get a little bit of a sense of the film that we're talking about tonight.
We are back in 5, 4.
Now, here's Mr. Midnight, Jack Darrow.
Oh, good evening, Night Owls, and thank you for allowing me into your living rooms once again. Well, Night Owls, we've got a heck of a show in store for you tonight, and I'm very excited for you to see it all unfold before your very eyes. I really hope you love it. Gosh, I hope you love it. Please love it. Love it.
This shocked a nation.
Trying to host a national syndicated talk show.
And I'm trying to help you keep it on the air.
We all know how important it is to keep our sponsors and affiliates happy, but in my humble opinion, there is only one person who really matters in this whole darn crazy business. And that is you, our viewer.
You're meddling with things you don't understand.
Whoa! Now, as you know, here on Night Owls, we think it's very important to keep an open mind. Please welcome Dr. June Ross Mitchell and Lily, the young subject of the book, Conversations with the Devil.
I really don't think it's a good idea, Jack. She's becoming more unpredictable.
That's a good thing. That's why we still do live TV. Ladies and gentlemen, please stay tuned for a live television first as we attempt to commune with the devil.
Lily, can you hear me?
Good to see you again, Jack.
Lily, return to me.
This isn't about ratings anymore.
No one's going anywhere.
How could you let it happen, Jack? How could you let it happen?
Please be warned, anyone with young children in the room. What you're about to see
You okay, Jack?
is profoundly disturbing and shocking.
You get out there, Mr. Midnight. And you knock him dead.
So that's the trailer for Late Night with the Devil. And it's going to be really interesting to get into this and really interesting to see what your all's thoughts are about this, especially since it's relatively fresh. It's got one of the highest Rotten Tomatoes scores of a horror movie this year, and great reviews all the way across. So we'll dive in tonight and see what I think about it and what you all think about it as well. Now, as far as the cast goes, we've got David Malchin, I think is how you pronounce his name, and he plays Jack Delroy. Now, obviously, that's not a name that you would probably know right off, but if you see his face, you'll know him. He's one of those guys. He's one of those, oh yeah, I know that guy. I know that face. And there's many things that you've seen him in throughout the years. He also hosts it seems to be some kind of talk show or a conversationalist show at least, where him and a guest are in coffins. I think it's called Conversations in Coffins, and they're having a dialogue back and forth while they're both laying in individual coffins, and I think that's streaming on his Instagram page. We got Laura Gordon as June Ross Mitchell, who is a parapsychologist and author. We have Ian Bliss as Carmichael Haig, who is a former magician turned skeptic, and Fasaya Bza is a psychic. So you've got a small cast of characters. You've got Jack Delroy, and other than the extras in the audience, this is a relatively small cast. So a few facts about the film before we dive in. Famed horror... I had framed. I don't know why I had that written. Famed horror novelist Stephen King praised this film. He said, "I got a screener and it's absolutely brilliant. I couldn't take my eyes off of it. Your results may vary, as they say, but I urge you to watch when you can." Now, I don't really take much stock in Stephen King. I'm not a big fan of his. A lot of times his novels, translation to films, have been subpar for the most part. And I just don't like him as a person. I don't like a lot of the things that he says, a lot of things that he does, because they're, kind of moronic, to be honest with you. But that being said, when he is talking about praising this film, he does have an understanding of horror elements. So you could take stock in saying, well, he is one of the master novelists as far as like thrillers and horror books and novels go. So he does know what he's talking about. I do respect him in that regard. But as far as movies and such, I would honestly hold my opinion above his. Traditional folklore states that if a person makes contact with the devil for earthly goods, the devil can come claim payment in 7 years. There's a, quote, documentary footage, a little bit of an aspect, not much, but it shows itself a little bit in this film. At the start of the film, and it shows Jack Delroy at the Grove in 1969. His wife dies in 1976, 7 years later. And that kind of there are going to be spoiler alerts, so just letting you know now, where this is a relatively new film. Though the movie is set in New York City, the film was shot in Dockland Studios in Melbourne, Australia. And the cutaways and "We'll be right back" are the network messages were made using AI. And there are a couple, I think there's 3 of them. They're cutaways, when you're watching a show, "We'll be right back in just a few moments." Those couple of segues they were made with AI and almost began a backlash. A backlash almost started because of that. But it didn't. It didn't. Let's see. Oh, another little fact about this is when Gus was talking to Carmichael before being hypnotized, he mentions wanting to keep his head between his shoulders. And Carmichael promises to make it, quote, spin. And this is a little bit of foreshadowing. So if you've seen this film, you know the foreshadowing that I'm talking about. And I won't go ahead and tell you how it's like that. The budget on this film was $150,000, which makes it actually one of the least expensive films that we've discussed on this show. It made $11.4 million, so it was a financial success. And Rotten Tomatoes has a 97% positive rating, with the audience giving it 81% positive. And on International Movie Database, IMDb, the trusted app, it has a 7.1. So let's get into a little bit of the characters that are present in this movie. Now, other than the main guy, David, and I'm not even sure exactly how to pronounce his last name, David Dastmalchian, as Jack Delroy, all the other actors and actresses in this film are, I don't want to say they're unknowns, but they're not known actors and actresses that I've seen before. So this really is moved forward by the performances and also the story that's set around it. And one of the things, the story takes place primarily in the night time of this live television broadcast. So Jack Delroy has been doing his television show for a couple of years, and it's during sweeps. So he is trying his best to get the ratings up so he can keep his job. Because I think in the film, he is wanting to at least challenge Johnny Carson for the ratings champion of the late night talk show. So that's kind of the premise. So therefore, Jack Delroy, during the sweeps season, wants to bring in these guests that he thinks will make it so entertaining, so difficult for the audience, the home audience, not to tune in, that he's bringing in some very uncanny and very, quite frankly, scary individuals, which, originally I do not think that he even thinks that it's even a real thing, because there's the skeptic, Carmichael, and then there's the psychic that kind of starts everything off. So as I said, the plot and the story, basically, on the live television broadcast in 1977, something does go horribly wrong on the Jack Delroy show. And I think it's called Late Night Night Owl, I think is the name of the talk show. As the night progresses, you have a couple of different guests on his show. And then one of the guests happens to be a parapsychologist and author, June Ross Mitchell, and the young girl that she brings with her. Now, the young girl has come from a horrendous background. The Dr. Mitchell has taken her out of this horrific place that she spent a great deal of time growing up, witnessing these horrible things. You come to later find out that it is the Grove. Not the Grove exactly. Let me step back a little bit. It is a cult-like family that also has connections to the Grove, which, if you have seen the film, it is referenced that Jack Delroy and a lot of society types, a lot of the rich, a lot of the society, and a lot of the males, they said they go away, on this male retreat, and they kind of get into mischief. And some of the mischief that you learn that they get into in Mr. Delroy's case is that he has somehow had contact with the beyond, maybe with the devil or an entity. It's never really said 100%, but he has pledged to give up something after 7 years. And the devil, presumably, does come back and collect the payment. And I'm guessing that Jack is wanting to, wanting great success on the TV show, and he's willing to give up his wife or whatever for this to happen. So as the doctor is bringing forth, the young child, she's probably, about an 8 or 9, maybe 10-year-old girl. The devil is able to, I guess you could say, be revealed through her, and a lot of chaos and hell actually breaks loose within the studio set on live TV as well. That's as much as I'm going to get as far as the story. That's the basic story. And typically, I do not care for movies or even shows like there's a couple of episodes of Seinfeld where it takes place in one location. Now, that can work, like in the Robert Downey Jr. Heather Graham movie, Two Guys and a Girl. It takes place primarily in his apartment, but this is a horror movie. And it's very difficult, when not done right, for it to actually play well and be intriguing and interesting to the viewer when it just takes place in one particular area. And that's what it does. This is kind of takes place in real time during the time of the said show, Night Owls. Characters, like I said, I've named the characters a couple of times. Each actor and actress does a fantastic job with the characters. You don't have a lot of times in horror movies, and I think it's kind of good in a way, the shadow of the actor or actress that are famous or extremely famous, their persona overshadowing the material. And what I mean by that is you don't have a huge cast member. You could say, let's just use, you don't have Dwayne Johnson or, Zac Efron coming in playing these characters, because they're off screen or what they're known for is going to overshadow every single thing in this type of movie. Because this type of movie, not only is it a horror movie, but all horror movies, if done correct, are character studies, and they have a good, strong story. Because you can't have a successful horror movie and have these. I'm not saying you can't. However, it is not common for that to happen. And everyone does a really good job. David, I'm just going to refer to him as David. We're on a first name basis here. He does a fantastic job, and he comes off very likable in this film. He comes off like a tried and trusted and true talk show host. And you feel that he has that warm quality that, you've invited this man into your living room for years and years, so to speak, watching him entertain you on this nighttime television show. And I also want a standout performance. Also, I want to tell you is I think Carmichael Haig. So he's the former magician. I don't know why I'm saying musician, but the magician turned skeptic, and he's also a very good hypnotist as well. And that brings me to my next point, my favorite or least favorite scene in the film. There's a building to this movie that there often isn't in a lot of films. I don't even want to say a slow build, because this movie speeds by relatively quick. I would say it's probably an hour and 40 minutes, maybe even a 90-minute flick. I would say that, but it builds, and it builds at a great pace. It's never too fast. It's never rushed, and it's just right, because you get to know these characters. You get to know what's at stake, which is the talk show. You get to know the guests, a little bit about each one. Carmichael, the psychic, Dr. Mitchell, and Jack Delroy. You get to know these characters, and you understand a little bit about them within this small set of time. And I think that's really, it's a smart play, and it works well because it is set within the real lifetime of, 90 minutes or 140 minutes, an hour and 40 minutes or whatnot. But that leads me to one of my favorite scenes is when Carmichael is hypnotizing the pretty much the band leader of the show. And spoiler alert, in that time, because Carmichael is a skeptic of the doctor, and he's trying to show that the doctor is only employing hypnotic tactics, not only on the audience, but on the viewing audience at home, to make you all think that this child has some kind of possession in her. So Carmichael is 100% against believing that this doctor is legit. And to display that, Carmichael hypnotizes the band leader to thinking there are worms inside of him. Not only does he do that, he's getting the audience, the live audience, and also a lot of the home audience to actually believe that he's been able to do this. Now they go back, and it's a very intense scene because you as a viewer, meaning me or you as the audience member, you're also questioning where this may go because you don't know. That's another thing I did enjoy about this film and this scene is that I wasn't 100% sure of the outcome of this hypnotic episode by Carmichael. Whereas most films, not just horror movies, but most films that I see, I can pretty much telegraph and tell you what's going to happen next. Whereas this one, I wasn't sure with this scene if it was real or not. And I'm not going to spoil that here on the show because I would recommend, you'll find out if I want to recommend this movie later on in the show. And I just gave away that I kind of do a little bit. But that's one of my favorite scenes. I don't really, I don't even know if I should say. I don't want to say I have a least favorite scene, but I don't think the ending, I'm not saying it's bad. And I'm not saying I'm disappointed in the ending at all because I'm not. But the ending isn't quite as good as the rest of the film. And it kind of wraps it up and tells you a little bit about the Grove and a little bit more about how Jack Delroy has done this in the past. And it leaves it vague enough for you to come up and make your own conclusion and decision about it as well. But that's the only little bit of negative or criticism that I would have in this film as well. We've got the score and the music that I just played a little bit early. There is not a lot of score that I could actually find to play in the movie. I mean, this is the ending song, which we opened up with tonight. This is as the ending credits roll.
For the money, something they can sing, not so funny. Money in the bank to keep us warm.
And that's kind of why I played this, and that's a little bit why I played the movie trailer, is because although there is a score and a soundtrack a little bit throughout the movie, not a whole lot. And that probably has to do with they were writing the movie and they were like, okay, we're not going to be able to afford to license out a lot of songs. So what we're going to do is set this movie as a live TV show or an episode. Therefore, we're not going to have a lot of different sounds, music, things like that. So that's one of the many things that they did to kind of mask that the budget was really low, is they set it just for in this TV studio, which works perfectly. Originality, I would say this is a very original movie. It was recommended to do on the show by a couple different people. Actually, when it came out, we just had some films lined up, so decided to do that one. And I'm glad that we did. I've seen it. I've seen this film 3 times. Once in the theater, and I've seen it twice. Once last week, and once the week before that, because I do want to emphasize that this is a well-paced movie. The poster of this movie, if you want to go to Ryan Parker or the Other People's Show Facebook page, it's a good poster. I mean, it just says Late Night with the Devil in white lettering. You've got Jack Delroy standing up tall, but his feet are on fire in the poster, and below in block portraits is just a little bit of the cast. The live television event that shocked a nation is the tagline of the film. Would I or would I not recommend Late Night with the Devil? I would say yes. I would definitely recommend this movie. It's not. It's got a little bit of everything if you like in a horror movie, because it's set in one night. It's got a cast that you can relate to. a cast that even with Carmichael, he's brash, he's bold, he's a little bit of a jerk, but you see the skeptic where he's coming from. Everyone does a great job within their parts. It's well acted. The visuals are well. I was really surprised when I read that it was a $150,000 budget. I've seen movies where the budget is 2 to 3 times, 5 times that much, $10 million, and it doesn't look as good as this movie. This is a standout film, and it's not your typical cookie cutter slasher film at all, because it's not that in the least. This is more of a psychological journey that you're taking with Jack Delroy. And the only information that he has that you don't, and you kind of have it a little bit, is that he knows what he pledged at the Grove 7 years prior to his wife's death. He knows what he put up for stake. And he knows, and he's even thinking, there's a point in the movie where he's thinking, or he learns from the psychic, wow, the psychic's talking about my wife. And I don't want to give all that, but I would highly recommend going in watching Late Night with the Devil. Cut off the lights, cut them off, sit there in the dark, nice sound, no distractions, put your phone down, listen to the man, what he has to say, listen to the dialogue, and see if you think it wraps up well and is entertaining for 90 minutes or however long it may be. I do think that, and I was surprised, I got to be honest, I was surprised that this movie made me want to watch it again, because there's very few movies that I want to watch over and over again. And it could just be right time, right place. It could be this hit right when I needed it to hit, or it stood out just enough to make it unique. But I would definitely check it out. So that's Real Talk tonight, Late Night with the Devil. I think next week, diving into the romantic drama City of Angels with Nicolas Cage and Meg Ryan. Don't forget to go to our social media pages. That's the Facebook, Spotify, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. And stay tuned for another episode of The Other People Show on 92.5 WLSD The Vault.